Up here on Yahoo Sports, we get into UFC 137. Our lead MMA writer, Kevin Iole, is with us. Kevin, let's get into the main event at the top of the card. It's BJ Penn and Nick Diaz. We do these videos from a Las Vegas gambling angle, so Penn is the favorite, minus 130. Diaz coming back at plus 110. I will admit, we argued about 2 months ago. I was wrong. I thought Nick Diaz would be the bettor's choice and the book's choice.
Yeah, I just thought BJ would be the favorite, Steve. You know, where you look at him and he's been around a long time. He's had the experience against the higher level guys. The bigger name, he's known more by the public. I just thought there was too many reasons why BJ would come out to be the favorite. I think this is a good line, though, because it's going to get good two-way action. You don't if you like BJ Penn, you're not laying a really big price. But you can, if you like Nick Diaz, you're getting a couple bucks back. So I think that they put up a good number on this one that should get a lot of betting action. It's the kind of fight that should draw it, and I think they put a good number on it.
Dead even fight. I'll give you the negatives on both sides. First, we'll start with Penn. Obviously giving away some height and reach, so I think he's going to have trouble throwing from the outside. I don't think he throws enough volume, and I'm a little concerned about cardio if Diaz is able to execute, a wearing style in the first round. Am I off on those?
No, I think if I'm Nick Diaz in the first round and I got that length, what I want to do is I want to keep BJ on the outside, and I also want to punish him to the body. I mean, Nick Diaz, one of the better body punchers in MMA, and I mean, he really goes to the body well, and you don't see that a lot for whatever reason, but he has that arm length that I think will allow him to do that, and he can keep BJ off. And if you do that, number one, you're going to be scoring points, but, number two, as you know, Steve, BJ's cardio issues are very well known, and I think going to the body will be another way of slowing him down. So I think that's important for Nick, and I think that would be a good strategy for him.
So my concerns on the Diaz side have a lot to do with, first of all, nerves going into the fight, and also game planning. I think Nick is way too willing. He's a good boxer, and I love the volume style. I wish more guys did that, but he's also very reckless, Kevin, and I don't know that he can stand there and take big shots like he did from Daly and some other guys in the past against a guy like BJ Penn.
I'm glad you mentioned Daly because I was going to bring him up. And, I don't think, he's known as a striker. And, yes, he is a hard puncher, but he doesn't have anywhere near the kind of boxing skills that BJ Penn has. And he was able to hit Nick early and often in their fight. I think Nick, is going to have to be careful about BJ's boxing because he's so technically good. He's got a very good jab, and when BJ concentrates on his boxing, I think the best example of his boxing was probably his fight with Sean Shirk. But I think when he concentrates and he's into it, he is a tremendous boxer. And so I think that could, he could pick off Nick Diaz, kind of frustrate him a little bit in the fight. And BJ's been around, he knows, he's a smart guy. He reminds me of Muhammad Ali in the sense that he doesn't have to practice something to be able to pull it off in a fight. He can adjust, sort of see what's going on and come up with something. So, I think those are his advantages in the fight and just that he's such a multi-talented guy.
I'll tell you from a promotional standpoint, tell me if I'm wrong on this one. For the UFC, it's a lot better if Nick Diaz wins. I mean, moving forward, if he can be a little bit responsible with the media stuff, he's a great character to sell because he is that anti-establishment guy. And, Penn's been around a long time. And from here, if Penn won, could you really build towards another GSP fight? Diaz-GSP is a major fight.
Yeah, the problem that BJ has is he's lost twice to the lightweight champion. He's lost twice to the welterweight champion. And where does he go? He might be that guy that's probably good enough to beat both of them, but just, maybe just missing, just a hair there. So I think you're right. I think, certainly if Nick Diaz were able to beat BJ Penn, I think that would be better for the UFC. Although, as Dana White often likes to say, we don't care who wins. We build stars and we do it all the time. But, Nick Diaz, I'll just tell you an anecdotal thing, Steve. On Twitter, when I was at the open workouts the other day, Nick Diaz shows up a half an hour early. I put it on Twitter. I said, Nick Diaz just showed up a half hour early. I literally got, within the first 5 or 10 minutes, 250 responses. And I was sending out pictures and tweets about all the guys when they got there. And, there's a couple responses here, a couple responses there. Come out with Nick. And everybody was into it. So, people were fascinated by Nick, whether they love him or hate him, they're talking about him. So that's the kind of guy that I think the promoter would like to see win.
I'm a huge backer of Nick Diaz, really like his skill set, but like you, I think I'm going minus 130 on BJ Penn. That price is good for you, right?
It is. I'm going to lay the 130 on that. I really do like BJ in this fight. I've long loved BJ as a fighter, but I looked at this and I think, they have similar skill sets, and I just think BJ's a little bit better at the things he does. I like BJ to win the fight. I think it's going to be a heck of a fight, but I think BJ will find a way to win it.
This is a good deep card. We have two heavyweight tilts to cover. One that I'd like to get to is the one that has the bigger spread. That is Roy Nelson going up against Crow Cop. Did you get reaction, first of all, on the beard on Grizzly Adams, Roy Nelson?
Well, I kind of wrote my column, if you check that out on Yahoo Sports, and I talked about it. I said, I kind of feel sorry for Roy Nelson. This is a guy that's facing a career-defining fight, and people are talking about his beard and his suit. And Dana White, had a line where I asked Dana, I said, what do you think the public appeal is with Roy Nelson? He said, what's his wife's appeal? He said, what does she like him for? And it was like, poor Roy is just taking it from all sides.
Yeah.
But, Roy is a really talented guy, and I think, he needs to get over the hump. He's got a lot of good wins. His best wins are over Brendan Schaub and Stefan Struve. He needs to get one over a guy who's a former A fighter, but a guy like that, like a Crow Cop. When he stepped up his last two times, he came up short, Junior Dos Santos and Frank Mir. And I think for himself, for his career, for his job, he really needs to beat Mirko Crow Cop.
One of the guys you're most bullish on is up next. It's Matt Mitrione going up against Czech Congo. I look at the fight and I go 5-0 fighter. I like some of the raw skills. He's impressed me to this point. But this is a big step up for Matt Mitrione. The bettors, the sports books in Vegas say, no. He's the favorite. Matt Mitrione is minus 140 and Congo comes back at plus 120. I think you agree with that. I think you like Mitrione in the fight.
I love Mitrione in the fight. I'm really high on Mitrione, and there's no truth to the rumor that I like him because we're both meatheads. That's not true. But I looked at, and I mentioned this to you before off camera. When I saw Cain Velasquez the first time, I said, this dude guaranteed is going to win the heavyweight title someday. I didn't have quite the same strong reaction about Matt Mitrione, but I do think he's a guy good enough to win the heavyweight championship. A really good athlete. He's really big, but he's faster than most heavyweights out there. He's got good quickness, strength, and he understands the game, despite the fact that Rashad dubbed him meathead, and kind of the initial impression he had of him was, this Looney Tune type guy. I think, he's taken a really smart approach to his career, working with Neil Malance and Randy Couture helped him out a lot. He went down to Florida, work with Rashad Evans and the Black Zillion. So he's really, I think, doing very well for his career. And I like him a lot as a fighter, and I think he's going to prove that against Czech Congo.
Well, we're going to find out, if he can grapple a little bit and stay off the cage and move and stay focused, because I do believe Congo, and we've seen it in some fights, against a guy like Paul Buntello. And Buntello's not the kind of athlete that Mitrione is, but Buntello... No, but Buntello also got lazy, laid against the cage, and was able to be taken down. And I think Congo's going to be smart in this one and use that skill and try to get Mitrione to his back. And we'll find out if the work with Neil Melanson and like you said, the camp down in South Florida at Imperial has... kind of cleaned up his wrestling. I don't know if you can learn that, Kevin, in a year and a half or 2 years of real good training. So I'm going to go with Congo plus 120.
Who is a signature win? Who is he going after?
I can tell you this. The one guy that he rocked consistently, but unfortunately his takedown defense didn't get it done, was your boy. Early in his career, Cain Velasquez. He did give him some trouble.
He did. I mean,
wasn't like he got steamrolled. He just couldn't stay off his back, but he was hitting him.
Velasquez was picking him up and slamming him down like it was crazy.
Well, that part was the steamroll, but he did hit some. He did blast him with some big right hands.
He did, and I mean that's what makes Czech, why he's near the top of the heavyweight division in the UFC, because he has that power. But to me, that's his only thing. And let's not get carried away with the striking. He's a heavy hitter, I grant you. And any guy that's as big as he is that hits you on the chin, he's going to hurt you. Pat Barry found that out. But, hey, look, Frank Mir is supposedly a jiu-jitsu guy. Frank Mir.
Well, sometimes you get caught. Sometimes you get caught. He didn't see the left hook coming. And by the way, I don't know where they come up with these stats, but Czech Congo, according to Anthony McGann, his manager, is the second most accurate striker in the history of the UFC.
That's just talk. That's all it is. Not only am I going with Matt Mitrione, what is it, $1.40?
Yes.
I'm putting 5 units on Matt Mitrione.
All right. Kevin?
Matt Mitrione you are going to win this fight, and you're going to make me look good once again.
Kevin Iole's
That's hard to do.
Kevin Iole's 500-star lock of the year, and then at UFC 141, he'll come up with another one. So, all right. Let's go rapid fire on the last few fights. Again, I love this fight card. This is a great fight card. One heavy favorite, though, that I'm excited to see, but I'm a little leery, again, because of the transition when the Japanese fighters have come over from Sengoku or Dream or in the past Pride. They've had a tough time making the adjustment, and Hatsuha Aoki makes his debut. Many people have him at 145 in the top 5. He's minus 335 against a guy who has nothing to lose and has come up big in spots like this in the past in George Roop. Roop comes back at plus 275.
You know, I picked on the Yahoo Sports poll, just who do you pick to win? I picked Aoki to win. But at that price, no way, no chance, no how am I laying that money, given the track record of Japanese fighters coming over here. I documented about 7 guys in my column on Aoki, and I think that their winning percentage once they left Japan was like 34%. You know, these guys are creations of, you know, maybe some fans who have seen him on TV and on DVD. Aoki is a talented guy, and, you know, he may be the one to crack that. But I'll tell you what, George Roop has had some good wins. He's not going to be intimidated. And if I'm betting, I think it's worth rolling the dice and taking the plus 275, because I think it's a lot closer fight than that, and there's a lot of question marks about Aoki. So I'm going to go with Roop as the big dog here.
You know, it's funny how the odds change for a fight that maybe could have happened, say, 6 months, 9 months ago. I can tell you there's no doubt in my mind that if Dennis Siver faces Donald Cerrone 6 or 9 months ago, there's no way the odds are like this. But because Cerrone's been on a hot streak, he's minus 245 against Dennis Siver. I think he's going to win the fight, but that seems a little high against Siver, who comes back at plus 205.
I'm with you. You know, I don't like Siver enough to take the 205. I'm going to pass on the fight. I picked Cerrone to win, but I agree with you. Siver is a tough opponent, and I just don't like the number, so I'm going to pass that fight.
Good fight, though. Fight of the night candidate, no doubt.
I think that's the one fight on the card I look forward to as much as any other than the main event.
I'm starting to think Cerrone, if he gets a win in this one, can be a matchup against one of these guys who's on the bounce back, you know, a Gallard or Gray Maynard. Like, that's how high they can move him up.
And yet he wants to fight Nam Fan. I mean, I don't like what is going on.
Down at 145. Like, dude, you're 6 feet tall. How can you cut to 145?
I mean, this is a guy I wrote a couple of weeks ago. I said, you know, he has an outside chance to become fighter of the year. If he wins this fight, and he's talked about fighting again in December, if he would beat somebody in December, you know, go 5-0 for the year. And if John Jones would happen to get upset, I mean, there's a lot of things that would have to happen, and it's highly unlikely. I understand that he would, but you know, if you have that chance, why would you want to drop down and fight a Nam Fan? It doesn't make sense.
One final fight we have to get to. I think this is a big fight. Maybe I'm higher on Tyson Griffin than just about everyone else. I remember him when he was moving up the ladder at 155. This is a guy who fought Frank Edgar when Edgar first came into the promotion. Dead even, right? And look what's happened to him since. And the reason was he fought to a poor game plan, and he should not bid at 155. I think he's adjusted to 145. He's a heavy favorite here, 320. I think it's a little heavy against Bart Palashevsky. That said, I do think he needs to steamroll Palashevsky or finish him to get himself really in the conversation for an eventual matchup. It might be 3 fights down the road against Jose Aldo.
Yeah, he needs to put some wins together. I think you know, he's definitely good enough to be a factor at 145. You know, I wonder how much it takes out of him. You know, he's a big dude. He's got big legs and, you know, big backside. I mean, he's a thick guy. You know, and I know he's a wrestler, so he's able to, you know, cut the weight like that. But I wonder what it takes out of him. I think he has more than enough to beat Bart Palashevsky. I like him in the fight. I don't like the number in the fight, and Tyson's been a little bit too unpredictable for me to lay that kind of money. So I'm going to pass on the fight. Pick Tyson Griffin to win, but pass on the fight from a betting standpoint.
So tomorrow night, Kevin and I will be out at the Mandalay Bay Event Center. We'll be covering UFC 137. Tonight, if you see this on Friday, we're going to be at the Event Center on the ramp in the lounge there doing our radio show that we do on Fridays on ESPN Radio 1100 and 98.9 FM in Vegas. It's called The MMA Insiders. We're going to have a slew of good guests, and we'll be right there after the weigh-in. So if you want to stop by and get pictures with the star of the show, Kevin Iole.
Frank's not going to be there. Apparently, according to Leon, Frank Trigg is the star of this show.
Frank Trigg is going to be there, so he may steal your thunder. But
okay, well then now it's okay.
Well, you can get pictures with both of you guys, and I'll just sit in the background, slump down. But you can hear that show.
Did anybody ever tell you that?
I'm being self-deprecating. You can hear that show every week from 6 to 7 PT Pacific time. So obviously adjust it for your Central and East Coast times, but you can hear the stream up on the web, and we archive the show as well. And tonight we have a good show coming up from UFC 137. Kevin, appreciate it. I hope your 500-star winner of the year hits, because then you'll have to come up with another one at the next card, like I said.
I always do.
There you go. Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, Steve.